Okay, so good morning, everybody. On behalf of the Tompkins Chamber, welcome to this early morning webinar on how to host a successful student internship. Hopefully you've got your coffee. I've got mine, my cool little cat mug. Yep.
Cheers.
This workshop is a part of our Learn series, which is presented by Tompkins Community Bank. And I'm very excited to welcome a previous colleague of mine, Jonathan Chalmers.
Chalmers.
Chalmers. Oh my gosh,
That.
I even asked you right before. I got nervous.
Okay.
He works in the School of Business, Career and Engagement. Oh my gosh. Okay. He works in the Ithaca College Center for Career Exploration and Development. It's gone through 1,000 different
Thank
names. You. Yes. And he serves as the School of Business Career Engagement Specialist. So I'm sorry for butchering your last name.
It's okay.
It's clearly I haven't watched enough of The Simpsons. So
Superintendent Chalmers.
Yes, Chalmers. Gosh. All right. Well, without further ado, take it away, Jonathan.
Hey, everybody. You should see the slides there. That's awesome. Okay. And this slide does have my name and title on there. So great to see all of you this morning. Again, as Mary said, we know it's early. So I really appreciate you starting your Tuesday morning here with me. First thing up, just by way of introduction, as Mary said, I am the Career Engagement Specialist for the School of Business. That's sort of a new format for our Career Center here at IC. So I'm stationed, within the School of Business. I work directly supporting School of Business students, and we actually have dedicated Career Engagement Specialists now for all 5 different schools. And again, that's a new model for us. We also have a new name as the Center for Career Exploration and Development. Again, sort of embracing more of the, exploratory and iterative nature of career development, understanding there's not just one path that you're set on for life, that it is a process of figuring it out. Just by way of other introductions and small talk, I know we're a small group. It would be so cool for me to know a little bit about you and the business or organization you're representing, so that I can hopefully touch on some things that might be relevant to you. And we'll just start maybe with Rob.
Yeah, so I'm Rob Binal. I actually work in career services over at SUNY Portland. Figured I would pop in today just to get to know some folks and see what connections we can make.
Cordica rivalry.
Yeah, exactly. I did work at IC before in orientation.
Great.
As an intern, so it's interesting. My wife is also an IC grad, so we have an interesting household for Cordica.
Awesome, Rob. Thanks. And Jeremiah?
Hey, I'm Jeremiah Craig. I'm a content creator and YouTuber. I also work for Well Said Media part-time down in Ithaca. I recently had an intern, and she actually wanted to work for Well Said Media, but they didn't have any openings. So I was like, hey, how about you do it for my YouTube channel, my content creation business? But I wasn't prepared, and that's why I'm here, so I can learn more about it for the next time around. She went on to get a paid position, so I'm really happy for her.
Awesome.
But I definitely knew that I wasn't prepared for an intern, so I'm really looking forward to this. Thank you.
Great. And Polly.
Hi there. I'm Polly Kiley, one half of Kiley's Cooking, which is a catering and food delivery business in Tompkins County. I grow a lot of vegetables on my 1/4 acre in Trumansburg, and I am looking for some help because it's just me and I am getting old. And I would like to definitely continue to transform my property into a permaculture oasis. So I'm hoping to find someone who's interested in organic gardening and permaculture to help me see my vision and help them to learn, more about trying to save our planet. So
Awesome. So cool. Love that.
Thanks.
Cool. Okay. How about Catherine next?
Hi, I'm Catherine. We've met before. I'm a recent grad of Ithaca College, and I was in potatoes classes.
Of course. Yeah. Okay. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Marketing associate at Ithaca Beer, and we're interested in having interns, and
Great.
This previous summer, I had a really bad internship, so I would like to see what a successful internship could look like for someone else.
And I'd love to, as we kind of go through, maybe mention like what made it bad, and hopefully, we can avoid that next time. Yeah, but thank you, and great to see you again.
Good to see you.
Hey, how about Mac next?
Hi, I'm Mac. I'm also a recent graduate of Ithaca College, class of 2022. I'm the
Congrats.
editor at Tompkins Weekly here in Tompkins County. And I've only been here about 6 months, and in that time we've had 2 interns.
Sure.
And I would just like to be able to do my best being a young person trying to figure out career worlds myself. Really would like to figure out how to make it a good experience for students.
Awesome. Mac, thanks. Oh, awesome. Congrats again. How about Galen next?
Hey, Jonathan, I know you very well.
Good to see you. Well,
You too.
Good to hear you.
Yeah, sorry, I'm driving in on my way to work.
No worries.
So
Drive safe.
I didn't want to miss this. I'm the director of administration at the Downtown Ithaca Alliance, and we actually have 4 interns right now for the summer, and we have quite a few interns that filter through our office. So I just wanted to, keep up the foundation of providing a good internship program for them.
Sure. Awesome. Thank you. Drive safe.
Thanks.
Pay attention to the road. Not me. Fred next.
Hi, I'm Fred. I have the gallery. We're best known for our donut program on Saturday, but also my chef in residence, Daniel Medina, who does a 5-course tasting menu. So we are a small food and beverage space, and being both in food and beverage and small, we find ourselves hitting those little plateaus where we used to in the industry have stodging, which of course was broadly unethical. And now we're trying to figure out new creative ways to both structure employment, internships, but also employment in ways that are meaningful and rewarding, because this market, students are kind of our primary labor resource and staffing resource.
Sure. Fantastic. I'm a big fan of your donuts. Thank you for mentioning that. And the tasting menu is kind of on our Ithaca bucket list to try that as soon as we can. So great to have you on. And last but not least, I think it's Shubha.
Yeah, hi, I'm Shubha from Venture Aid. We are an investment bank, a boutique investment bank and consulting firm. And sorry, I'm traveling right now on the West Coast, so just woke up. So excuse me. I still need caffeine in my system.
Yes.
Yeah, so we are a boutique firm. So we just took one summer intern this time, so we don't have any organized system of managing interns. So I would like to have a better system in place to manage summer interns.
Sure. Fantastic. Well, thanks again for waking up early to join us, and hopefully the coffee helps as we go. Really great to hear from everyone and kind of those diverse perspectives. And I think the slide deck I've got lined up is going to answer a lot of questions, maybe help generate some new ones for your organizations. The first question I want to start with is this slide that I've left up, the sort of discussion around the water cooler and the new intern taking notes. There's always truth in every joke. And just by way of discussion, what's going on here? Why is this maybe a good place to start a discussion about hosting an intern? I'll leave that open. Galen hopefully is not looking because he's keeping his eyes on the road, but anybody want to weigh in what they think might be happening here?
Sure. So this person is young, faced with a bunch of older, more experienced people, and they haven't had a lot of experience going out and actually having their own opinions and life experiences. And they've been told what to do all of their lives, sitting in a classroom, being forced to take notes.
Sure. Is there any other aspect to this that kind of jumps out? I don't want to like pick on Mac or Catherine as like recent college grads, but like, I think they probably might relate to this too.
Yeah, I'd be happy to chime in here. I've had a couple internship experiences where they don't really have a structure or give you much to do. And so the first thing that jumps out to me is that this intern is just kind of sitting there with nothing to do. And so they're trying to make something for themselves to do. And that, in this case, means taking notes at the water cooler, which I have had to sit in on many a water cooler conversations because they've had nothing for me to do. So
yeah, I'd say that definitely could be a piece of it. Anyone else have something to touch on with this?
That was a good point, Mac. I am so far from that end of it that I forgot what it was like to be in that position where you're just like, no one knows what to do with me.
Yeah, I think those Polly, Mac are both like valid observations. I definitely think a lot about the person in this situation being the new intern, being in a new environment. And I would say that by and large, for your interns, whether they're high school students, college students, they are in a professional setting for the first time in their lives. That's not to say maybe they've had a role at, I could say, McDonald's, babysitting, working at the town pool, something like that in the summer, that they've been in a professional role where they had, certain expectations and things like that. But by and large, they are joining your organizations as their real first foray into the adult world of work. And as much as skill building, those hard skills of, Fred mentioned staging, and I just finished The Bear, so I didn't know what staging was until I watched it. But that's, a very, hard skill. If you're in a kitchen, if you're doing prep, if you're cooking, you're developing these hard skills. But I think soft skills are important too. And for interns, especially, the ability to make small talk around the water cooler is a skill that you have to learn and develop. And while treating it as, I'm going to sit there and kind of take notes on the topics that people are talking about and maybe think about when to chime in and ask a question or make a comment or what's okay to comment about or what to steer clear of, those are all skills that get developed as well. So treating the internship experience holistically and really thinking of it as a whole learning experience. It's not just the sitting down and doing the work, it's the getting acclimated to professional environment, whatever that environment is, that's going to be different in all of these different industries that you represent, whether you're a nonprofit or a higher ed institution, it's going to be a different world. So I think that's all something to think about. And I like this joke to kind of start off there. So I think we've all thought about this dream a lot, especially now in a job market that honestly is really strong for the employee, right? We have a lot of choices. There are a lot of competition for qualified employees, and we've probably all felt that at our organizations in different ways. And I think we all dream about hiring that experienced employee that really has very little need for training and onboarding. We can kind of just plug them in and they're good to go, right? I think we all wish that was a reality. Just quick show of hands. Yeah, feels like something you wish. Okay, awesome. And the question is how? How do we do this? How can we make this reality? And I think the solution really is to think about developing a quality internship program. That can be our way. That can be our way to develop that talent, the people who are going to be familiar with our organization, that are going to know the ins and outs of our industry. They're going to have learned hands-on what that looks like, and they're ready to go. And I'll start with just a basic definition that an internship really is a form of experiential learning that integrates that knowledge and theory from the classroom into a practical application and skills development in a professional workplace setting. And whether that's a kitchen, or whether that's a radio station, or whether that's a farm, that setting can exist. And I'll also add to that we've got the option now of an in-person internship, a remote internship, or a hybrid, some combination of the two, really depending on your industry and what that role looks like for the intern. So that professional setting doesn't have to be all in the office. It can be a mix of that, or depending on your flexibility and the type of organization you are, maybe you have an intern who's on the West Coast. Maybe you have an intern who's in a different country. I mean, the possibilities really are endless there. So we do know that internships really give students the opportunity to gain experience, develop social capital, that ability to explore career fields, kind of test drive a career without actually signing a long-term contract is really cool. Obviously, it's an opportunity for them to expand their networks and make connections, but it's also a significant recruiting mechanism for the employer. And again, this gives you the opportunity to gain employees with experience, guide them, and then evaluate potential candidates. Think of it as an audition, right? You're going to evaluate this potential employee throughout the course of a month-long or multi-month internship and really get to know them. And we see that internships for organizations help reduce employee turnover. So based on data from the National Association of Colleges and Employers, we see that 75.5% of interns are still with the organization after their first year on the job. And that's compared to about 50% of non-intern employees who stick around for more than a year. So we see that this is a way for us to reduce turnover even once we onboard those employees. Again, many of you may have had the experience of, like, you start a job and then you realize a year in, this is not what I thought it was. This is not the organization I thought I wanted to be at. This is not where I wanted to be. But again, if you're an intern, you've test drove that company as well. You know kind of a little bit more what the culture is, what the opportunities are, where it's going to be going. And now you're much more comfortable in that decision. A little bit more here by way of definition. I'm sorry, these slides are a bit talky. I did kind of want to just go through with what the expertise on internship tells us. Again, this is a learning experience with a real world opportunity. And again, knowing that it's not just to advance the operations of the employer or to replace the work that a regular employee would perform. So we're not saying that an internship takes the place of you hiring someone who would be a full-time employee that you would normally have. Again, it's a learning experience. So we would want to make sure those learned skills and knowledge are transferable to other employment settings. And an internship is going to have a defined start and finish. Again, that's something that you're going to agree on in advance. So whether that's the term of a semester, whether that's the term of a summer, or what that looks like for your organization, we're kind of setting up knowing we have 8 weeks, we have 16 weeks, we have 6 months. We know that this is the duration of the internship. We also want to make sure that just as you would design a job description for a role that you were going to hire for, that we would actually do the same thing for an internship. We would set a position description. We would have clear responsibilities for that intern. And we would also have on your side as the organization, a list of required or desired qualifications. Whether that was, we want to hire someone who's a junior with a GPA of such and such that majors in such and such, right? We can kind of set those perhaps requirements or qualifications. Again, that's not to say that maybe for your organization, you've got a lot of flexibility. You're not really locked into a certain thing. I might talk about the person who mentioned that they're an investment bank. they're going to want someone maybe that can speak that lingo a little bit more from the start. So a finance or accounting major, right, is a natural fit. Somebody to come and work on a farm that has a background in maybe environmental science or biology, or, these are natural fits. Others, you may not be locked into that. Again, because it's a learning experience, it's a really good idea to think about learning objective or goals. So again, we want to think about what the student's academic experience is and how are we going to match that. And finally, some direct supervision by a professional with experience who's really going to provide feedback and guidance and resources to successfully complete that internship. Again, figuring out who at your organization is going to be responsible for keeping track of this intern is really important. And we'll touch on that in a little bit. And again, stop me at any point if you have a question. Happy to kind of interrupt and address that. I know there's a chat window here. Keep that over to the side. Just thinking about some more characteristics of an internship. I know that I mentioned that it's got a duration. And again, the typical internship is really going to track with that academic schedule. So that could be a month in the winter, the January term, the winter break. It could be up to 2 years, maybe depending on kind of what that track is for the student. Typically, we see about 3 to 6 months. Generally a one-time experience, although we know that interns may go back for a second summer at an organization. They may stick around and intern longer than that. Could be part-time. Again, we know that college students are students. So if they're interning during the semester, they may only be able to do a certain limited number of hours. But if it's the summer, they could be, there 5 days a week, full-time with your organization. Could be paid or non-paid. Paid's always preferred. I'll talk about that. And then an internship really is part of an educational program that's carefully monitored. Could be for academic credit, could be part of a learning plan that the student's going to come up with individually in conjunction with your organization. And again, thinking of an internship as different from a short-term job like a summer job or volunteer work is that there is that intentional learning agenda that's structured into the experience. Again, this is going to be some things like objectives, observation, reflection, evaluation, assessment. I'll talk a little bit later about the idea of coming up with a syllabus, right? Just as you might approach a college class or a learning experience. Again, you're going to balance between the intern's learning objectives and the specific work that you need done. Again, we know that at times there's going to be a big event or there's going to be a big project. There's going to be, a small one-off thing that the intern's going to get involved with that may not, track exactly with their major or maybe their career goals or something like that, but will still be valuable experience. And then finally, knowing that internships promote academic, career, or personal development, right? Again, it's that idea of being able to explore, test drive, get your hands-on experience in a particular industry. Knowing that there are a number of benefits for employers, I think is good to highlight. One, we're offering you, and I say we as like Ithaca College here, is offering you a year-round source of highly motivated professionals, right? You've sort of got this captive audience on South Hill of students who may want internships. Students are going to bring new perspectives to old problems, right? I'll talk about an example here real quick of a student I met with who had interned at an accounting firm, and the accounting firm really was just one woman in an office, and that was her accounting firm. And the student, was working on organizing some files and working on the ledger, and then said, hey, you keep your ledger on sort of this paper composition book. Have you thought about making an Excel spreadsheet? And maybe I could help you set that up. And And again, that isn't rocket science, but that's something that the student can kind of bring from their academic experience and help maybe transform in a way the way that that business operates. Visibility of your organization is increased on campus. I think all of you mentioned or all of you work at organizations that are really good for students to know about, right? So having an ambassador on campus is awesome. Again, this is going to free up maybe some of your professional staff to do some other work. Again, if the intern is able to pick up some of that, it's flexible, it's cost effective. You're not signing a long-term contract with that intern. So if it's a seasonal role and we know that this is the busy season for our business, we kind of have that built in that we've got some extra people, extra hands on deck to help with that. It's cost effective way to recruit new employees. And it really does help enhance your image in the community, right? I think right along with being a chamber member, there's no greater badge of honor than having a really great internship program to show that you're committed to really giving back and making your organization a part of that educational enterprise. So again, love to sell you on hosting interns, and I'll work that in as we go a little bit more. Also, something I want to work in as we go is just highlighting a couple of our IC students who have interned locally. So this is Liza. Liza was a legal intern last summer at Llama Law. I asked her what a typical day at her internship looked like. She said she would spend the day reading cases, witnessing will signings, serving papers, and learning from the attorneys. She said that she chose to intern with a local employer because she's from Ithaca originally. She really wanted to have the opportunity to live and work here in the summer, wanted a way to kind of give back to her hometown. She said the internship really allowed her to develop her legal writing skills, her ability to do research, and her case reading skills. She said the best part about interning in Ithaca was knowing that she was making a difference in the lives of people in the Ithaca community. And Liza graduated in May, and now she's working full-time as a legal assistant with the Crossmore Legal Group. So we'll transition here to what's more of a step-by-step guide to think about creating an internship program. And if you have an internship program already, I'm going to include a couple tips that might help enhance it. But again, if you're just sort of getting started, this is a basic way to sort of start your checklist. And the first thing to do is start to think about your goals as an organization. Just by starting with maybe what do you hope to achieve with your internship program. If you're a small company searching for help on a specific project, really starting to kind of think about where that need exists and how an intern might best fit that. If you're a quickly growing company and recruitment is a concern that you're worried about and just attracting and keeping talent, is this your gateway to finding those motivated new employees? If you're a nonprofit, and again, maybe you're limited by budget, how can you provide an interesting and rewarding experience? So, that is something to think about as well. And then knowing that your interns will be soon to graduate college students, if you're looking for potential employees with management potential and thinking about, we really want to attract someone who's got a solid college education and how that could help transform our organization. So again, thinking about this in consultation with everybody in your organization is really key. Again, having this discussion, maybe a meeting, a series of meetings as a staff to kind of think about what that intern could do, what that could look like. If you're a very small organization, maybe talking to a career specialist about how to develop an internship. So I'd be happy to chat with anybody who's like, yeah, I want an intern, but like, where do I even get started? How do I start to conceptualize this? Happy to chat about that. And then actually writing out the plan, right? So our next step is really starting to think about, what is this going to look like in reality? So will you pay the intern? How much can you pay them? How much do you want to pay them? What's a competitive rate, right? Obviously, we see minimum wages going up. Everybody's trying to attract employees. So if you are offering an internship, what are the incentives beyond pay, maybe, that's going to attract that intern? One of the big things to really think about is, where are you going to put this intern, right? It's one thing to say, all right, you're our new intern, but you have to go sit in the chair in the lobby to do your work, or to use the example from the office, here's the supply closet that you can kind of sit in while you work, right? Nobody wants to be that intern. Or maybe it's a remote intern, maybe it's a hybrid internship. But in that case, what is going to be your routine? What is going to be your schedule? When are you going to meet and have those check-ins? What kind of academic background or experience are you going to want in that intern? Who's going to be responsible for checking up with that intern to make sure that they're making progress? Talk with them regularly. Kind of who's going to be their designated supervisor within your organization? How many hours per week do you want the intern to work? What will they do? What's the program beyond the work, right? So again, going back to that small talk slide at the water cooler, it's not just the work that the interns are going to be doing that's going to be important for them, right? It's an opportunity for them to learn and grow. So are they shadowing you on client meetings to kind of get that experience? Are they meeting with potential customers? Are they helping maybe at an event that your organization is hosting that's sort of outside the normal business hours, right? So all of these are opportunities for the intern to get some experience, to learn and develop their skills. And again, And again, thinking about those sort of holistically, right? And thinking about the soft skills and the hard skills together that you want this intern to get out of the experience. And again, it's a good idea to kind of sit down and structure this and really think about it ahead of time so that you can kind of meet those goals, make sure that you're not sort of floundering and, you started with one project and the intern was a real powerhouse and like finish that in a week. And now you're like, okay, now what are we going to have them do, right? So sort of maybe having some backup plans in mind about what that looks like. And again, knowing that the internship has a defined beginning and end, sort of planning that process of, okay, as we get to the end, how are we going to wrap this up? Is there a summative experience, something that kind of puts a nice button on the end of the internship? I think thinking about the internship supervisor is really important. This obviously is another little joke cartoon, but I maybe want to have you weigh in on this one as well and talk about the structure and role of this internship, and maybe why is the supervisor the one who's actually getting the coffee for the intern? What do you guys think? Any reactions to this?
I think this is Shubha. Yeah, I think one of the things, just looking at this cartoon, I can think is the intern is sitting in front of computers. So that is the new generation. They are better in the tech area. So I think that might be the one thing this cartoon is showing. That's my interpretation, because he has a better understanding of how to work with new programs, computer-based new tech, way of doing things. So he'll be able to organize better in terms of anything, the internal filing system or internal any other stuff. So I think that's
Absolutely. Sure, and that was absolutely spot on with what I wanted to get to with this cartoon, is that you're absolutely correct. The younger generation, they may be more tech savvy. This student, in the picture, if we can maybe make some guesses, maybe they're a computer science major. Maybe they've just learned all of the programming skills that they need. And the best thing that this supervisor can do for his organization is kind of tell them what he needs and get out of his way, right? Like to just let that intern go with the technology that they're familiar with. Again, I think making sure that your intern is supported, has the tools and resources they need is fantastic. And I think that the best person maybe at your organization to supervise that intern is someone that understands that, someone who knows that this intern is going to be bringing a whole set of skills that they have developed in the classroom, that they may have familiarity with, that you maybe don't know as you've been focused on other things. And they're going to offer that to your organization. And at the same time, you can be supporting them in other ways, whether it's, this is sort of one example of something that's very tech focused, but maybe this is an intern who really does need help at the water cooler, making small talk or sort of figuring out how to fit maybe socially within an organization. And as a supervisor for that intern, hopefully you'll be able to help them adjust in that aspect as well. So again, I think the person at your organization that ultimately is going to play the strongest role with the intern should be someone that does have an interest in education and learning and development, that understands that intern is a student and is there to learn and develop, but maybe also is willing to sort of go hands off and let the intern run with the project, or let the intern kind of spend some time working on something on their own with some regular check-in, and maybe bring them a cup of coffee and see how it's going. Anybody else want to offer a perspective? Awesome.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I also think that it's important to not feel like you have to be in control all the time as a boss, that it's okay to let go of some of that need to, be in charge of everything all the time, because that's what you're used to, especially if you're a small organization. Maybe it's just you and you do everything all the time. And sometimes you want to micromanage people and tell them how to do every single little detail of a job. And I think that this is showing that, you can let go and let someone else be in charge for a while.
Absolutely. And while I totally agree that it's super important for that intern to, shadow you, to see how you do, because you know your business better than anyone, right? To shadow you, to really see what you do and understand your business and all of that, right? But if the intern ever said, hey, that's awesome, have you ever thought of doing it this way, right? And maybe says like, here's a way that this process could be improved, or have you thought of using Excel for that, data, collection, or how you're keeping track of those records, something like that. And if your gut reaction would be like, no, this is the way we've always done it, this is, why have an intern, right? So that this is part of the reason why you would bring in an intern, maybe to offer some of that fresh perspective, to, a little bit of that youthful enthusiasm can go a long way. Awesome. Thank you, Polly.
And Jonathan, one other thing too, I was going to say is even longevity of internships and I guess retention of that internship being offered, because people communicate so much that, if the student's getting valuable experience out of that, they're going to share that back with, the college that they're at or other students in their program. And that may make that internship more marketable in the future.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And one thing I have on a slide later is about interns who don't feel like they have enough work to do, right? And like how that can kind of torpedo an internship. So your step 3, right? So now that you've kind of conceptualized what your internship is going to look like, what you want to get out of that internship, you've really sat down and written your goals and come up with your plan. Step 3 is to actually go out and find that intern, right? And I can stress so much the getting out there early. Again, you want to be in competition for the best interns, right? And by starting early, by really planning ahead and maybe 3 or 4 months before you need that intern to start, really starting to think about getting out there, advertising, talking to your college, local college career centers, and how can you post and recruit that intern. Again, I'll use an example of how this is evolving. We're starting to see postings for summer 2025 internships in different industries, right? Especially in finance, accounting, banking. These are industries where they're really thinking ahead in terms of their need as an organization. They're posting internships early. And I'm in the School of Business as the career specialist. It's not uncommon for a student to come in September and tell me they got their offer letter for June after they've graduated, right? So depending on industry, they may be well ahead in their hiring cycle. Other industries I kind of describe as the sort of just in time, right? They're posting because they got a grant, they got a TV show greenlit, or they got a project, that's just been approved. So they need to go out and hire the people to do that. They might be on a little bit more of a short lead time to ramping up to that position. But again, I think I want you to have the best possible intern for your organization. And I think the way that you do that is start early, get out there early, make yourself known to that candidate pool of interns that you want to recruit from. And again, I would encourage you to really think about your intern selection process. It should mirror, that it has to be the exact same, but it should mirror your typical process for selecting and onboarding a regular employee, right? Reviewing resumes, having interviews, really carefully considering what that intern is offering and bringing to the table and being selective. Again, talking to your human resources, your payroll, people that you would typically consult for some of these questions about the legal aspects of hiring an intern. Sometimes there's liability. Sometimes, depending on the type of work, workers' compensation can play in. Depending on where the intern is from, if they're an international student, sometimes there are immigration loopholes, or not loopholes, but immigration, there may be loopholes, immigration considerations to that to keep track of. So in that case, talking to the college's international student office, they can advise on some of that. So all of these things are things to consider. But again, I think the number one tip is getting out there early, really getting started on this process as early as possible, writing out the job description that you want to have, thinking about what the compensation is going to look like, thinking of exactly who you want to fill this role, and then really being thoughtful through that process of how are you going to select that intern, how are you going to onboard them, and have them get started in your organization. So would love to share with this for everyone that Ithaca College uses Handshake. Rob, I think Cortland uses Handshake as well. It's sort of the industry standard for colleges at this time. Think of it as Indeed, think of it as LinkedIn, exclusively for college students and recent graduates. And I spend, most of my conversations with students who are looking for jobs and internships, steering them to Handshake. And I hope that as you consider posting and hiring interns, you're advertising on our Handshake as well. It is free to use, so it's not an additional expense that you really have to worry about as an organization. posting on Handshake is a pretty streamlined process. There's a link there, and again, we'll share these slides out to everyone. You'll create an employer profile. Once you submit a request, a physical human being here will approve it. Like these are vetted postings that we take time and care to make sure that these are legit. And again, some tips to think about: being really specific with the job details and requirements, entering as much information as you can. And then also within Handshake, you can put some parameters around your criteria, such as the graduation you're looking for, major, GPA. Again, that will sort of help filter out those potential interns as well. Again, this is something that we're happy to help you with. So if you were to reach out to me or someone here at the IC Career Center, we'd gladly help you put that Handshake profile together. For students, they have an app that they can use. So this is a really great way. I encourage students to scroll through their Handshake feed instead of TikTok, when they're sitting on the couch, to just use that as part of a natural way to find those opportunities. So you've selected your intern. Congratulations. We're on to step 4, orientation and training. I think first impressions are really key. Really thinking about that intern's first day and kind of what that looks like. How are you introducing them to others? How are you making sure that they're meeting the key people at your organization that they need to meet? Giving them the resources to do their job. I mean, I know it's like a given that, hey, the college student's going to have a laptop, so they're going to come, they're going to be able to do that, that we don't have to worry about that, right? And I think as an organization, you do maybe need to worry about that. Again, if they're working on projects that are maybe of a proprietary nature of something that's a confidentiality issue, do you really want the student downloading that on their personal device to use, right? That may be something that you want to think about. Giving them the resources to do their job. It's also an equity issue, right? So thinking about, if I'm asking the intern to do something, but I'm not giving them the tool that they need, is that really fair? So, and I would also say that starting from the first day, giving the intern a lot of feedback, remembering that they are there to learn, and sort of, addressing things in the moment, really saying like, this is something that, setting that expectation early just from that first day. Fred mentioned, at the gallery being, a food service location, right? There are probably certain things that someone who's going to come in and work in that environment, might have to check off. They're not going to come in flip-flops and things like that. So like, those are just things that expectations that you might think about communicating to the intern in advance, setting that up. Again, they're there to learn, right? It's a little bit different from hiring a new employee. The employee is expected to come in and kind of know these things, but an intern really, they're there to learn. So it's okay to address that and set that expectation. I'll talk more about this in a second, but really thinking of a structured process of evaluation and assessment, right? I had a student that I worked with last summer, and she had an internship previously. It was actually required for her major that she complete an internship. She interned with a local organization, and basically like she had some personal stuff going on, and she never really actually did anything for that organization. And that was a bummer. But what compounded this issue is that organization never communicated back to the college supervisor. There was actually a professor who was supposed to be, making sure that the student was meeting their learning goals and things like that. They never said until the very end of the internship, oh, by the way, this student never did any work for us, therefore, I guess we have to fail her, right? Again, that made that situation a little bit tougher. Again, not that the student she shouldn't have sort of blown off the internship. But if the college professor had known, they could have talked about what are the personal issues do you need to withdraw? And then, they're sort of like, don't wait to the last minute to give the student that feedback, right? There should never be a time when you have to have a tough conversation with your intern that it really comes as a surprise, right? So I really encourage you to think about a process of regular feedback. If the intern's not meeting expectation, I'll talk about this in a little bit, making sure that there's a process for dealing with that. And again, knowing that an internship is going to have a set end date, right? Whether it's the end of the summer, it's the end of the semester, you have a target date in mind that is that intern's last day, right? Think about how you want to finish. And I encourage you to think about a sort of summative experience, whether it's a final project, a presentation, just a way for the student to kind of put a neat little bow on that internship experience, and also have a celebration, right? Celebrate that student and their accomplishment, celebrate their contributions. They've been a part of your team for the last 3 months, right? Again, you're going to almost feel like they're part of the organization because they are. So how are you going to celebrate that? Get them a cake, take them out to lunch, whatever that looks like. Put a positive on the end of that experience. Again, you'll be sad they're leaving because they were a great intern. They'll be sad to leave because you were a great supervisor. So it's okay to take a minute to kind of celebrate and enjoy that. And also, as you're managing the intern, be mindful of their academic obligations. Remember that they're students first. As you're sitting down to plan out the internship, especially if it's set during a semester, right? While the student is actually in classes and taking midterms and taking finals and having group projects. Maybe they're a student athlete and their team is in the playoffs or something like that, right? There may be a stretch of time that you just don't see that intern because they're focused on those academic obligations. And again, having those conversations with them in advance and kind of saying like, hey, do you have any midterms coming up? Or are there days that maybe you're not going to be able to come into the office because you've got really to study and focus on your academic obligations? Have those conversations, right? Again, it shouldn't be a shock that they're going to take a day or two off because they've got a big biology midterm that they have to prepare for, right? And again, we want them to be successful college students. This internship is a piece of that academic and career development journey that they're going on. Have those conversations and kind of be prepared for that. And again, if there's a big project that they're working on for you, right, maybe you're benchmarking that in a different way. So they've kind of, reached a point up to that point. They're going to take maybe a day or two off for those midterms or, to travel with their team and play in the playoffs or whatever. And then they're going to come back, pick up where they left off and then finish strong. So you can kind of navigate that as you go. And then the final step is repeat the process, right? You're building a successful internship program. College students operate on an academic calendar. So there's going to be a new cohort of students seeking internships next semester, next summer, next year. And I know somebody mentioned this, that success is going to lead to success. So capitalize on your successful interns to help you recruit new interns. Someone who can go out and say, it was so awesome interning at this organization, and tell their friends and tell their classmates. They could be your future interns right there. And again, we want to have you gain that steady, almost reliable stream of prepared interns coming from IC to you. We want that process to continue. And again, I think by setting up for success, sometimes you may take that intern's feedback and say, here are some things that we could improve about our internship program, and maybe even taking their feedback as well of like, hey, what did you like? What didn't you like? What do you wish you had gotten to do? Okay, we've done it once, we can do it again, but let's make a few tweaks to that process. And I'll highlight one more time that internships really are a valuable return on investment for recruiting. 8 out of 10 employers have said, according to a NACE poll, that internships offer the best return on investment for recruiting compared to career fairs, on-campus visits, panels, and other activities. So again, by building this process up, you'll see the results. I'll highlight another one of our local interns. So here's Sam. Sam is interning this summer at Rev, Ithaca Startup Works. So he's actually in a paid role helping entrepreneurs order materials and equipment for their product prototypes. So he works in the procurement aspect of that. I asked him why he wanted to stay in Ithaca for his summer internship. And he said that he chose to intern with a local employer because he wanted to experience the Ithaca summertime, and it did not disappoint. So he was happy with the weather. There he is on the balcony at Rev. They've got a fantastic view there. He's also on the football team, and he wanted to be in Ithaca for the summer to work out with his teammates. He said that one of the most useful skills he'd learned is being able to effectively communicate concepts with people who are unfamiliar with the topic. So being able to kind of say, like, here's the prototype, here's the piece of equipment we need, can you help meet that goal? And he said the best part has been the flexibility. He's been able to work hybrid schedule, which has allowed him to go home and visit with family while not missing out on work. So again, even during the summer, a full-time internship, thinking about a little flexibility built in. It's a summer internship, but it's summer, right? You may want to build in a week or two of vacation time. Maybe you're going to take a vacation. So you say, the student's going to work independently for that time and then come back in person and see you. I'll go through some frequently asked questions, and then I'll just open it up generally for questions from everybody. The first question probably that you're going to have is, do I have to pay my intern? And my answer is yes, you should pay your intern. And there's a few reasons for that that I'll go through, and I'm going to try to make the argument here. Yeah, you should pay your intern. One, it's going to avoid any conflict with the U.S. Fair Labor Standards Act. Again, internships are seen as adding value to an employer. So if you're a company and you're having an intern, the intern is doing work that then adds value to your organization. And if you're gleaning that value, but not providing compensation, that's an unfair labor practice. And we want to avoid that, right? There's certain loopholes, and academic credit is one of them, but I'll address that in a minute. The second thing is paid internships are going to offer a competitive advantage to you as the employer. Again, you're competing with McDonald's and Arby's and everybody else that's going to pay $16, $17 an hour for that student's time in the summer, right? Great learning experience is awesome, but college students also have bills to pay, right? So by offering a paid internship, at a competitive level, you're leveling the playing field and then recruiting the best talent for your organization. Paid interns, we know statistically, receive more job offers and higher starting salaries than unpaid interns, and are more likely to be retained if hired. So if you're really thinking of this as a recruiting strategy for your organization, the intern who's like, well, now you want to pay me, right? So it's kind of one of those things of it's something that's going to benefit you in the long term. You're making an investment in developing that potential employee, and then they're going to feel valued and respected as they consider staying at your organization. All unpaid internships also perpetuate inequity. So statistics show that female, Black, Hispanic, and first-generation students are overrepresented in unpaid internships and underrepresented in paid internships. So it really does become an equity issue, and it's something to think about as your organization. And again, requiring internships to be paid, so this is a NACE position statement. They've kind of looked into this and said it promotes equity and access by removing barriers that limit who can take part. So if you think of an intern who maybe is from a socioeconomic background that they really can't afford to go without a paycheck for a summer, right? So they have to choose the McDonald's or the Arby's job. and not the internship that would really help advance or really help put them in a career that they want to be in. It also recognizes that interns perform work and all work should be paid, and it supports diversifying the workforce by creating an inclusive pool of entry-level candidates who have the experience and competencies that employers are going to be seeking. So again, it is an equity issue. Well, okay, so if the student is receiving academic credit for their internship, then I don't have to pay them, right? I'm going to give them academic credit. They're getting something out of it. You should still pay the intern. Here's why. In nearly all cases, students are paying tuition for those academic credits, right? They're paying to now work for you, and that, compensation for labor cannot be purchased by the labor. This again. And again, there's nothing that says the student can't earn credit and also be paid. They're working towards their academic goals and getting monetary compensation for the labor they contribute to their employer. And again, I'm going to hit on this for the nonprofit, for government. Again, legally, yes, you can provide unpaid internships. Again, if you were not paying your intern, you're also recognizing that the intern cohort will include those who can afford to forego a paycheck and are willing to endure financial hardship while providing unpaid labor. And again, I think that if you're an organization that really values equity and inclusion, right, your budget should reflect that priority. So maybe this year you can't offer a paid internship, but maybe the next budget cycle you're thinking about what that actually is going to look like for your organization. Again, you're investing in developing talent. You're investing in promoting a diverse workforce. Make the investment now and see the rewards. One thing that I'll add to that is something that we're proud to work with a number of local nonprofit agencies. So for students who are eligible for federal work study, they will actually be paid out of the Ithaca College Work Study Fund, however that works. And then the partner agencies, there's more than are on this list, and it changes every year. They're able to have the interns work for them, but then the students are paid out of the federal work study, which is a really great arrangement, really opens the door for a lot of opportunities for the students to work with these nonprofit agencies. Again, I know these are a number of chamber members, so that's a really cool partnership. And again, if you are a nonprofit, this is, we can have you added to this list and talk about what that looks like for your organization. The last frequently asked question that I'll put up, and I alluded to this earlier, what if the intern is not meeting my expectations? So you've had the intern work maybe a month and they really haven't either shown up or completed the benchmarks that you kind of had set for them. And again, I really think it's important to have an open channel of communication and tell them the intern is there to learn, right? Again, they're student first, as a learning experience. We talked about the fact that this is probably their first experience in a professional setting, and it will take them time to adjust. It's not going to come naturally to them. It's a skill that has to be developed. They're going to need regular feedback. So really meeting with them weekly, or maybe if you notice they start to struggle, maybe you're meeting with them twice a week. Providing constructive feedback on their progress and performance, right? Setting goals, talking about that process of improvement and what you've seen and really where you need that intern to be. Remember that you're going to keep them busy and directed towards their learning objectives, right? Again, talking about, no, remember, these are your learning objectives. So this is, part of that, and we're working to that. And also, I find that students rarely complain if they're given too much to do, right? They're going to feel valued, especially if you're paying them, right? They're going to feel like they're really making a contribution. But students do complain if there's not enough for them to do at their internship. Again, they feel like, they have to be there. This is a commitment that they made in addition to everything else, their personal and academic lives. So they will complain if they're not being challenged. And I would kind of add to this that flexibility in an internship is it's okay to maybe revisit those learning objectives. It's maybe okay to revisit those tasks. If you get to a certain point, it's really just not working. I always encourage students to, as they're at their internship, really be observant and kind of take in everything that's happening at an organization. And sometimes an intern will be maybe in an office setting and they'll be working with someone and they'll notice something else is happening and they'll be like, what's going on over there? Like that person is doing something really cool. That seems really interesting. You know, maybe that's an opportunity to restructure or refocus the internship if it makes the most sense. So kind of being open to flexibility and treating the internship as, again, it's not a contract that's set in stone. There's always an opportunity to think about the best fit for your organization and for that particular student. I'll highlight one more of our IC student interns. This is Utkarsh. He interned this summer at Tompkins Bank. I believe they're the sponsor for these sessions, right, Mary? So we'll close with that one. Utkarsh is awesome. He just won an award at the Beta Alpha Psi conference as part of a case study that his group did. One of my favorite students that I've worked with here. He was really set on interning with Tompkins right from the get-go as we started his internship search process. He said that Ithaca is gorgeous in the summer. He's really enjoyed staying here. Tompkins was the first priority on his list. He really enjoyed this internship. He said that getting to work on 2 different projects at his own pace was really awesome. He also met with his supervisor once a day to kind of go over his progress with the internship. He said he worked mostly remotely, but he did enjoy the days that he got to go in and be in the office with everybody. So again, really happy to highlight these local interns and hopefully in the future, highlighting some at your organizations as well. Now what, right? You've heard my pitch. Again, starting to think about what the internship is going to look like at your organization. We would love to have you post that on our Handshake account here so that we can share that with our students. More than welcome to come up to South Hill anytime you want to meet students in person. Matt, Catherine, we're not scary, right? Like this is a cool place to come and visit. Here in the School of Business, we host a Career Connection series. So these are opportunities for employers to come up, present on their organization, talk about their career journeys, network with students. We host on-campus recruitment and interviews. We have career and internship fairs throughout the year, either smaller school-based info sessions and career fairs, tabling, all different structure. We also have our main career and internship fair in the spring semester. And we're planning here in the School of Business return of Professions Week with a renewed focus on local businesses, leaders and opportunities. So the goal for this kind of the umbrella idea is an invest in Ithaca type idea where we're highlighting the expertise and experience of local business leaders, connecting them with the fresh ideas and perspectives of college students and making the pitch that, hey, don't move to New York or Boston when you graduate, stay here in Ithaca and enjoy what's happening here. Catherine Mack, you can wave the banner for that one. So that is the end of my slideshow. I would gladly open it up for questions next. I'm also going to share my contact info here with everybody, and Mary will share the slides afterwards for everybody. So gladly open it up to questions.
I have a question.
Sure.
So I know you are here to promote Ithaca College's internship program.
I am biased, yeah.
But do you know of any other good, valuable internship programs in the region that you would recommend? I know specifically that I was told about one here in Trumansburg, where I live, that actually involves high school students.
Sure.
I used to work at Ben and Jerry's, which was a project of Youth Scoops here in town. So I know that there's the Learning Web as well. Is there any other resources that you would recommend for people?
Yeah, absolutely. And again, I think those are all fantastic opportunities to utilize that internship pool. I think about there are so many opportunities to onboard an intern. There's so many different ways to approach an internship that is really kind of a blank canvas, right? I came to this with the goal of saying, yes, hire IC students as your interns, right? I would be remiss if I didn't do that. In my previous role, actually a couple previous roles, I worked with students with intellectual and developmental disabilities, developing internship programs and opportunities for that population, right? And that my sales pitch was very similar, right? Like the internships are a great way to have a mutually beneficial relationship for the student, for the institution, and for the employer. So kind of thinking about what the needs are for your program, for your business, thinking about what the ideal student fit, for that would be, and maybe thinking long-term about who you would want to work at your organization as well. Not every business, company, organization needs to recruit four-year college degree earners, right? So if that is not necessarily the employee pool that you're looking for, then that shouldn't be the intern pool that you're looking for, right? So again, it's kind of thinking holistically about what the best fit for your organization is, kind of really thinking with, beginning with the end in mind of, do we want, is the purpose of this internship program to really be thinking about developing talent who's going to stick with our organization long term, and what does that talent look like, and what skills do we need to be really prioritizing? Hopefully that helps, Polly.
Okay, but you don't have any specific organizations to name names.
Oh, sure. So and Mary, I think, is going to be keyed into that as well. We were going to have a couple guest speakers join. I know Mary, one from Groton Central School and one from TC3. I would say those are probably also great places to start talking to your local school district. Other nonprofits in the area that also do workforce development and maybe have the opportunity to work on employee placement. Within New York, it's used to be Access VR, but I think it has a different name, vocational rehabilitation for students with, for individuals with disabilities, veterans. There are many organizations that work on employee development and workforce development. So again, kind of like starting to think about maybe which of those organizations are offering the best fit for what you're going to be looking for. You mentioned, I think, that your focus is agriculture. So where are students gaining agriculture skills, right? I would think Cornell maybe more so than I see necessarily, although we do have a really cool environmental studies program that does some agriculture related maple syrup and honey production, I think, is their focus. So
yeah, and I was just going to mention so this is also, one of those opportunities that you can really take advantage of being a chamber member, of like reaching out and saying, what chamber members have this sort of focus, and especially like Jonathan was saying with the nonprofit sort of aspect, because I can think of a couple just off the top of my head, like the children's garden or the community garden, like all of those that have a lot of volunteers that might be looking, especially as we were focusing on offering more paid opportunities, that might be something that someone is interested in pursuing. So what I'll do is when I'm sending the Oh yeah, Galen just shared the YES program. The YES program is fantastic as well. Yeah, but I can share some of like the bigger sort of resources when I send out the slides as well, that I at least know of. And then of course, reach out directly to us for any sort of specific organizations that we might be able to connect you with.
Cool, thank you.
Brad's got a question.
So from a sort of structural standpoint, as I'm considering, whether I'm going to do something like an internship or seasonal work or whatnot, I suppose in the food and beverage sector, what's the case to structure something like an internship, and what is, besides, just pay or something to do, what are the things that students are looking for that would be relevant to this food and beverage industry?
Sure. So I'll speak again, biased towards Ithaca College School of Business, and I'm sorry that bias is going to show, but we have an entrepreneurship minor. And I think, entrepreneurship is key, obviously, for your operation, being a small business, being focused on developing largely by word of mouth and largely by that sort of operation. So I think that is a population of students that would be very interested in many different opportunities at your company. So we have many of you might know Via Carpenter was actually, I think, the first graduate or one of the first graduates of that entrepreneurship minor, and has gone on to, those delicious cookies. So again, I think there are lots of different ways to attract talent, attract students, offering different opportunities, right? So whether you're really focused on social media, but maybe TikTok isn't a skill that you have in-house, right? Like, I am not an expert on TikTok. I would much rather hand that off to a student and be like, yes, you make the TikToks, because you know what's trending, you know much better than I do how to approach that, and really creating engaging content that is, again, going to drive business to your storefront. So really, whatever that looks like. Again, I think there's a great opportunity to think creatively, really think about what the needs are at your organization, and with an internship, addressing that in a way that meets your needs, but also is creating a learning experience for a student. Restaurant skills obviously are so transferable that it's a huge advantage on a resume, to be able to say, I worked in a fast-paced environment, I worked in a team-oriented environment. These are soft skills, but really thinking about the ways that those could translate in all different industries is fantastic.
Yeah, and I just wanted to also share that just from my experience working with students and hiring internships before my job at the chamber, we've really seen a shift in mentality where there used to be almost this like altruistic mentality of like, I just want to give back. I want to, really get really deep and involved with our community. Like, we're not seeing that as much anymore. We're seeing more like, what am I going to get out of this? Like in as little time as possible, how can I get all of the skills to make sure that I can move on and, get whatever position or get whatever, job or whatever, or next internship. And so what I've seen is, especially utilizing sites like LinkedIn, where, so many students are posting like, their highlight reels. It's like, the weirdest social media that exists right now, but like, this is where they are, right? You got to meet them where they're at, and posting, what you're looking for, but like what they're going to get out of it. And so I think, kind of like what Jonathan was just saying with like, those skills that you can get from an opportunity within the hospitality industry. I think that sometimes we have to be creative with the way that we word things, and in terms of being mindful of, okay, yes, like this might be what you're doing day to day, but overall, here are the skills that you're going to, really learn and take on. And then this is how you could actually apply them to whatever comes next within your career. So I think that that's something to think about. Sorry.
And again, that's something I'd be happy to chat further with, possibly over donuts. No, about maybe how to sort of position that experience, and maybe thinking about almost like a task analysis, or almost like sitting down and thinking about like what would be the objective for that internship, what would the student really be getting out of it, what are sort of the learning goals, and maybe thinking about like the next step of like, okay, then what students are we really looking for this opportunity? Mac?
Yeah, thank you, Jonathan. So I do have a question about when it comes to paying interns. So for us here at the newspaper, during the summer, we offer a summer internship through the New York Press Association. There we go. And that is stipend, thankfully. I had a couple of internships as a student that were stipend instead of paid. And while it's not, the same, it is a good option for students like me who had to work 24/7. However, that being said, during the regular school semester, we don't pay our interns. It's typically 1 to 2 credits. And I'm still relatively new here, so I'm still kind of learning how to work that out. But it seems like it is not necessarily in our budget. So what are some ways to go about, whether it's through grant writing or things like that, to try to get some of those funds to at least offer a stipend or a set amount for students during those internships? Yeah,
so again, I think you're on the right track of kind of thinking creatively about ways to meet that need. I would say, maybe there are other avenues of compensation besides a paycheck, right? We're gonna get you some gift cards, we're gonna get you some free parking downtown, because maybe they have to come downtown and park. And do you want them paying for that out of pocket plus, not getting paid for the internship, or kind of whatever that looks like? We'll buy you lunch, when you come down. And again, I think in media especially, it's tight profit margins, right? And the same probably, for a lot of you, that, maybe it's something that you're building towards with a budget. Maybe it's an ask of a particular advertiser. Maybe it's an ask of a particular sponsor. Is this a sponsored internship, something like that. Something that we're working towards as a college is developing more internship scholarships and more opportunities for our alumni to sponsor internship experiences. So again, this is something that we see as a need as well, that we don't want students to go without, and I mean without like without groceries or without whatever they're doing, because they're doing an internship with you instead of working at the dining hall where they can count on a paycheck or something like that. And I would also, adding to that, the flexibility of maybe that internship for that particular student. In that case, you're just being super flexible on deadlines and things like that, because, at the end of the day, that's what it is. So.
Yeah. Thank you. That's helpful. I didn't think of sponsored internships, so that's definitely something we can look at doing. Thank you, Jonathan.
Hey. This has been so great to chat with all of you. Certainly, I think I have learned a lot about your individual situations and needs that I'm definitely going to be thinking about. And again, would love to connect more about inviting you up to campus, about helping you meet those challenges, because I think internships are a fantastic way to do that.
Absolutely.
And thanks, Mary, for the opportunity.
Oh my gosh, absolutely. Thank you, Jonathan, for taking time out of your day to share all of this. And as he just mentioned, I think we're clearly just skimming the surface on how we can really provide these opportunities for students within the area. We haven't even like started talking about high school students, right?
Yeah.
Which is also another opportunity. And so, you know, this is not the end of the conversation. This is just the beginning. And, you know, so definitely keep an eye out for additional workshops that we'll be putting on. And then, you know, I've got Jonathan's information. I'll send that out with the slides, and I'll send along a couple other resources that I mentioned earlier. And of course, thank you once again to Tompkins Community Bank for sponsoring this lovely Learn series. And I guess with that, we'll call it a day and get on with our Tuesdays.
Sounds great. Bye, everyone.
Perfect.
Lovely to meet you.
Take care.